Admiral Kethvar stood on the bridge of his flagship, watching the blue planet grow larger on the main screen. Earth looked peaceful from space, with white clouds swirling over green and brown continents. It was hard to believe that such a pretty world would soon become another victory for the Zephyrian Empire. "Sir, we are now in attack position," reported his second-in-command, Officer Yenthara. Her crystal-like skin reflected the soft glow of the ship's controls. "All 300 ships are ready for battle." Kethvar nodded slowly. This was always his favorite moment before a conquest. The calm before the storm. The last few minutes when the target species still believed they had a chance to survive. He had done this 17 times before, and it never got old. "What do we know about these humans?" he asked, settling into his command chair. Yenthara checked her data pad. "They are a young species, sir. They have basic nuclear weapons and simple rockets. Their largest military ship is only 300 meters long. Our smallest fighter is twice that size. Population? About 8 billion across the planet. They live in large cities that will be easy targets for our energy cannons." Kethvar smiled, showing his sharp teeth. "And their response to our surrender demand?" "The same as always, sir. They refuse to give up. They say they will fight to the end." Of course they did. Every species said the same thing when the Zephyrian Empire came calling. They all thought courage and determination could defeat superior technology. They were always wrong. The Zephyrians had been conquering worlds for over 200 years. Their crystal ships were powered by energy sources that most species could not even understand. Their weapons could turn entire mountains into glass. Their shields could stop any attack that primitive civilizations could throw at them. Humans were no different from the others. They had sent their little ships to try to stop the invasion. Kethvar had watched them approach on his sensors. Dozens of small metal vessels that looked like toys compared to his war fleet. His gunners had destroyed them in minutes. Now the real battle would begin. The humans on the surface would try to resist, but it would not matter. Within days, maybe hours, they would surrender or be wiped out completely. "Begin the bombardment," Kethvar ordered. On the planet below, Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the EDF Valiant, one of the few Earth ships that had survived the space battle. His vessel was hidden in the shadow of the moon, its engines powered down to avoid detection. "Sir, we're receiving reports from the surface," said Lieutenant Lisa Carter, her voice tight with stress. "The aliens are hitting our major cities with energy weapons. New York, London, Tokyo, all under attack." Morrison gripped the rail in front of him. Through the view screen, he could see flashes of light on Earth's surface as the alien weapons struck their targets. Each flash meant thousands of people were dying. "Any word from headquarters?" he asked. "Communications are spotty, sir, but we're getting scattered reports that some military bases are still operational." Morrison was 35 years old and had been in the Earth Defense Force for 12 years. He had always known this day might come. Humanity had detected alien signals from deep space for decades, but they had always been too far away to matter. Now the aliens were here, and humanity was not ready. "Sir, incoming transmission from the alien fleet," Carter reported. "Put it through." The bridge speakers crackled to life. A mechanical voice spoke in perfect English, though everyone knew it was being translated by alien computers. "Humans of Earth, this is Admiral Kethvar of the Zephyrian Empire. Your resistance has failed. Your ships are destroyed. Your cities are burning. You have one final chance to surrender unconditionally. If you continue to fight, we will destroy your entire species. You have 1 hour to decide." The transmission ended, leaving the bridge in silence. Morrison looked around at his crew. They were all young, most of them barely out of training. Lieutenant Carter was only 23. Ensign Bob Taylor, who operated the weapon systems, was even younger. But Morrison saw no fear in their eyes. He saw anger. He saw determination. He saw the same thing he felt burning in his own chest. "Send our reply," Morrison ordered. Carter's fingers moved over her console. "Channel open, sir." Morrison took a deep breath. He knew his words would likely be the last official communication from humanity to the alien invaders. "Admiral Kethvar, This is Captain Morrison of the Earth Defense Force. We have received your ultimatum. Here is our answer. Earth belongs to humanity, and we will never surrender it. If you want our world, you will have to take it from our cold, dead hands. Earth stands free, and we will keep it that way. He nodded to Carter, who cut the transmission. The bridge crew looked at him with respect and pride. They all knew they were probably going to die in the next few hours, but nobody seemed afraid. "What are our orders, sir?" asked Ensign Taylor. Morrison thought for a moment. The alien fleet had 300 ships. Earth had maybe a dozen vessels left, and most of those were damaged. In a straight fight, humanity would lose in minutes. But maybe they did not have to fight fair. "Take us down to the surface," Morrison ordered. "We're going to link up with ground forces and see what we can do to hurt these aliens." As the Valiant descended toward Earth's atmosphere, Morrison thought about his family. His wife Karen was probably in one of the emergency shelters with their 2 children. If the aliens won, he would never see them again. But something deep inside him refused to accept defeat. Humans had survived ice ages, plagues, wars, and disasters that had wiped out entire civilizations. They had climbed out of caves and reached for the stars. They had split the atom and mapped their own DNA. Maybe they were primitive compared to the aliens. Maybe their weapons were simple and their ships were small. But they were still human, and humans did not give up easily. On the surface, the bombardment continued. Alien energy beams lanced down from orbit, turning buildings into slag and streets into rivers of molten glass. Emergency sirens wailed in every major city as people fled to underground shelters. But in secret military bases buried deep beneath mountains and ocean floors, other preparations were being made. Dr. Elena Rodriguez stood in the control room of Facility 7, staring at computer screens filled with data that had been classified for decades. "Ma'am, we're getting reports that conventional resistance is failing," said her assistant, Dr. Gary Webb. "The aliens are too strong." Rodriguez nodded grimly. She had hoped it would not come to this. The projects locked away in Facility 7 were things that humanity had created but never intended to use. They were too dangerous, too unpredictable, too horrible for civilized warfare, but the aliens had given them no choice. "Begin preparations for Project Nightfall," Rodriguez ordered. "Authorization code 77 Alpha. Webb's eyes widened. "Ma'am, are you sure? Once we start this, there's no going back. Look at the reports, Gary. The aliens are killing millions of people. If we don't act now, there won't be a human civilization left to save." Rodriguez walked to a secure terminal and began entering her access codes. Around the world, similar scenes were playing out in other hidden facilities. The sleeping giants of human military science were about to wake up. Admiral Kethvar watched the bombardment from his flagship with satisfaction. The humans were putting up more resistance than expected, but it would not matter. By tomorrow, Earth would be another conquered world in the Zephyrian Empire. He had no idea that humanity was about to show him what monsters looked like. Dr. Elena Rodriguez stood in the control room of Facility 7, her hand trembling over the console. The screens around her showed the destruction happening on the surface. Cities were burning. Millions of people were dead or dying. The alien bombardment had been going on for 6 hours, and humanity's conventional forces were completely overwhelmed. General Paul Adams stood beside her, his weathered face grim with the weight of the decision they were about to make. He was 60 years old and had served in the military for 4 decades. He had fought in 3 wars and commanded operations on 5 continents. But he had never faced anything like this. "Elena, are we absolutely certain about this?" he asked quietly. "Once we open Pandora's box, we can never close it again." Rodriguez looked at the data streaming across her monitors. The Zephyrian ground forces had landed in 12 locations around the globe. Their crystal-armored soldiers were advancing on major population centers, killing everything in their path. Conventional weapons barely scratched their armor. Human tanks and aircraft were being destroyed faster than they could be deployed. "The math is simple, Paul," she said. "At the current rate of casualties, humanity will be extinct within 72 hours. Project Nightfall is our only option." She had been the director of advanced military research for 8 years. In that time, she had overseen projects that pushed the boundaries of science and ethics. Most of them had been theoretical exercises, intellectual challenges that would never see practical application. They were too dangerous, too unpredictable, too monstrous for any civilized nation to actually use. The alien invasion had changed the definition of civilized. Rodriguez entered her authorization codes into the console. Red warning lights began, flashing throughout the facility. Automated voices spoke in multiple languages, warning staff to clear certain sections of the complex. Authorization confirmed, the computer announced. Project Nightfall is now active. All personnel are advised that ethical oversight protocols have been suspended. Across the globe, similar scenes were playing out in other hidden facilities. In the mountains of Colorado, Colonel Amy Patterson was activating the Enhanced Soldier program. In the depths of the Pacific Ocean, Dr. Ben Hughes was initializing the Consciousness Transfer Project. In the Australian desert, Director Kate Walsh was releasing biological assets that had never been intended to see daylight. Each facility had been working on different aspects of human enhancement for decades. Genetic modification, cybernetic, integration, psionic development, consciousness transfer, biological weapons design. All of it had been carefully controlled, limited to small-scale experiments and theoretical models. The alien invasion had removed all limits. Rodriguez watched as the first batch of volunteer soldiers entered the genetic modification chambers. They were all volunteers from elite military units who had agreed to undergo the enhancement process. They knew the risks. They knew they might not survive. They knew that even if they did survive, they would never be fully human again. Lieutenant Commander Ryan Clark was the first to enter Chamber 1. He was 28 years old, a Navy SEAL with 12 years of combat experience. His wife had died in the bombing of San Diego. His 2 children were missing, probably dead. He had nothing left to lose and everything to fight for. Lieutenant Commander, are you certain you want to proceed? Rodriguez asked through the intercom. The process is irreversible. You understand that? Clark looked up at the camera, his eyes hard with determination. Doc, my family is gone. My city is gone. Half my country is gone. If becoming a monster is what it takes to stop these aliens, then make me a monster. Rodriguez nodded to her technicians. The chamber filled with a glowing blue mist as the genetic modification process began. Microscopic machines entered Clark's bloodstream, carrying modified DNA sequences from dozens of Earth's most dangerous predators. His cellular structure began changing at the molecular level. The process had been tested on laboratory animals, but never on humans. The results had been promising but unpredictable. Some test subjects had gained incredible abilities. Others had died horribly. A few had become something that was no longer recognizably the original species. In Chamber 2, Sergeant Maria Santos was undergoing cybernetic enhancement. Her nervous system was being integrated with quantum processors that would allow her to think and react at superhuman speeds. Her bones were being replaced with metal alloys stronger than steel. Her muscles were being supplemented with artificial fibers that could generate 10 times normal human strength. In Chamber 3, Dr. Tim Foster was participating in the psionic development program. His brain was being altered to unlock mental abilities that existed in human DNA but had remained dormant for millions of years. Telepathy, telekinesis, matter manipulation at the molecular level. The process was the most dangerous of all, with a survival rate of less than 30%. While the enhancement processes continued, Captain Jake Morrison was fighting for his life on the surface. His ship, the EDF Valiant, had been shot down over the ruins of Chicago. He and his surviving crew were hiding in the wreckage of a shopping mall, trying to avoid the alien patrols that were hunting them. "Sir, we've got movement to the north," whispered Lieutenant Lisa Carter. She was crouched behind an overturned car, her rifle pointed toward the entrance of the mall. Morrison crawled over to her position. Through the broken windows he could see 3 Zephyrian soldiers moving through the rubble. They were 7 feet tall, covered in crystal armor that reflected the light from the burning buildings around them. Their weapons looked like works of art, but Morrison had seen what they could do to human bodies. "How many rounds do we have left?" he asked quietly. "Maybe 20 between all of us," Carter replied. Not nearly enough. Morrison knew she was right. They had been fighting for 8 hours with no resupply and no reinforcements. His crew of 12 had been reduced to 4 survivors. Even if they killed these 3 aliens, there would be more behind them. But then something strange happened. The lead Zephyrian soldier suddenly stopped moving. His head turned left and right as if he was looking for something. The other 2 soldiers moved up beside him, their weapons raised and ready. Then all 3 of them disappeared. Morrison blinked, certain his eyes were playing tricks on him. But the aliens were simply gone. No flash of light, no sound, no sign of what had happened to them. One moment they were there, the next moment they were not. "Sir, did you see that?" Carter whispered. Before Morrison could answer, they heard a sound that made their blood freeze. It was a howl, but not from any animal. They recognized it was deeper than a wolf, more primal than a lion, and filled with a rage that seemed to come from the depths of hell itself. The howl was answered by others from different directions around the city. Morrison counted at least 6 different voices, all making the same inhuman sound. "What the hell was that?" asked Ensign Bob Taylor. Morrison did not answer because he did not know, but deep in his gut, he had a feeling that something had changed. The aliens had come to Earth expecting to fight humans. Maybe they were about to discover they had made a terrible mistake. In Facility 7, Dr. Rodriguez watched the vital signs of her test subjects. The genetic modification process was complete for the first batch. Lieutenant Commander Clark was alive, but his readings were unlike anything she had ever seen. His heart rate was twice normal human levels, but steady. His brain activity showed patterns that did not match any known human neural signatures. His DNA had been successfully rewritten, incorporating genetic material from sharks, tigers, eagles, and other apex predators. But the most interesting change was in his blood chemistry. His body was producing new compounds that had never existed in nature before. Compounds that seemed to give him abilities that defied the laws of physics. "Status report on Subject 1, Rodriguez ordered. "Vital signs stable but abnormal," replied Dr. Webb. "Genetic integration successful. Neural activity suggests enhanced cognitive function. Physical capabilities appear to have increased by factors we have never seen before." Rodriguez nodded. It was time for the field test. "Release Subject 1 for active duty," she ordered. The chamber door opened, and Lieutenant Commander Ryan Clark stepped out. He looked human, but Rodriguez could see the changes immediately. His eyes glowed with a faint blue light. His movements were fluid and precise, like a predator stalking prey. When he smiled, she could see that his teeth had become slightly pointed. "How do you feel?" she asked. Clark flexed his hands, and she saw claws extend from his fingertips before retracting again. "I feel hungry," he said, his voice deeper than before. "And I know exactly what I want to eat." Lieutenant Commander Ryan Clark moved through the ruins of Chicago like a shadow made flesh. His enhanced senses picked up every sound, every smell, every vibration in the concrete beneath his feet. The genetic modifications had changed him in ways that even Dr. Rodriguez had not fully predicted. He could hear the Zephyrian patrol 3 blocks away, their crystal armor clinking softly as they moved through the rubble. Their alien scent was sharp and metallic in his nostrils. His modified eyes could see their heat signatures through solid walls, glowing red against the cooler background of the destroyed city. The hunger that had awakened in him was not for food. It was for combat, for the hunt, for the satisfaction of destroying the enemies who had killed his family and burned his world. Clark reached the corner of a collapsed office building and peered around the edge. 5 Zephyrian soldiers were moving in formation down what had once been Michigan Avenue. Their weapons were raised and ready, but they were scanning for human survivors who might be hiding in the debris. They had no idea they were being stalked by something that was no longer entirely human. The first alien never saw him coming. Clark moved with speed that seemed to bend the laws of physics, covering 30 yards in the blink of an eye. His enhanced hands, tipped with claws that could cut through steel, tore through the crystal armor as if it were made of paper. Blue alien blood splattered across the broken pavement. The second Zephyrian spun around, raising his energy weapon, but Clark was already moving, his modified reflexes allowing him to dodge the energy blast by a fraction of an inch. The beam struck the wall behind him, turning stone into molten glass. Clark's claws found the alien's throat. The Zephyrian made a gurgling sound and collapsed. The remaining 3 soldiers opened fire simultaneously. Energy beams converged on Clark's position, but he was no longer there. The genetic modifications had given him abilities that he was still discovering. His body seemed to phase in and out of solid matter, allowing the deadly beams to pass harmlessly through him. He reappeared behind the 3rd alien, his claws piercing the soldier's back and emerging through his chest. The Zephyrian looked down at the bloody points protruding from his armor, with what might have been surprise before falling forward. The 4th and 5th aliens backed away, their weapons firing wildly. Clark could smell their fear, a sour chemical scent that his enhanced senses found almost intoxicating. He smiled, showing teeth that had become sharp as razors. "Run," he said in a voice that was deeper and more threatening than any human voice should be. "I want to see how fast you can run." The aliens did run, but it did not matter. Clark followed them through the ruins, moving like a hunting cat playing with wounded prey. He caught them one by one, his enhanced abilities making their desperate flight seem slow and clumsy. When it was over, he stood among the alien corpses and threw back his head, releasing a howl that echoed through the empty streets. It was answered by similar calls from across the city. The monsters were awake and they were hungry. 3 miles away, Captain Jake Morrison heard the howls and felt his blood run cold. He and his surviving crew were still hiding in the shopping mall, but the sounds coming from outside were unlike anything he had ever heard. "Sir, what do you think is happening out there?" asked Lieutenant Lisa Carter. Morrison shook his head. "I don't know, but something has changed. The alien patrols stopped coming this way about an hour ago. Through the broken windows, they could see smoke rising from different parts of the city. But now there were also flashes of blue light and the sound of energy weapons firing in rapid bursts. It sounded like a major battle was taking place, but Morrison could not tell who was fighting whom. Then they saw something that made them question their sanity. A figure moved past the mall entrance, running at impossible speed. It was human-shaped, but moved wrong, as if gravity had less effect on it than it should. Blue light pulsed under its skin, visible through torn clothing. When it turned its head toward them for a moment, Morrison saw eyes that glowed like stars. "Did you see that?" whispered Ensign Bob Taylor. Before anyone could answer, they heard voices outside. Human voices, but speaking in tones that seemed wrong somehow. "3 more patrols eliminated in Sector 7, said a woman's voice. "Good," replied a man. "The hive mind is coordinating strikes across the entire city. We should have this area cleared within 2 hours. What about human survivors? Leave them alone unless they interfere. Our target is the alien ground forces." Morrison looked at his crew. The voices were definitely human, but they were talking about things that made no sense. Hive mind? Coordinated strikes across the city? Who were these people? He decided to take a risk. Moving carefully to the mall entrance, he called out, "Hello? We're human military personnel. Can you help us?" The conversation outside stopped. Morrison held his breath, wondering if he had just made a fatal mistake. A woman appeared in the doorway. She looked human at first glance, but Morrison quickly noticed the differences. Her skin had a faint metallic sheen, and her eyes reflected light like a cat's. When she moved, it was with mechanical precision that seemed unnatural. "Identify yourselves," she said in a voice that sounded like it was being produced by a computer. "Captain, Jake Morrison, Earth Defense Force. These are my crew members." The woman studied them for a moment. "I am Sergeant Maria Santos, Enhanced Combat Division. You are the crew from the EDF Valiant." Morrison was surprised that she knew about his ship. "Yes, we crashed here 8 hours ago. Are you with Earth Forces?" Santos nodded. "We are what Earth Forces have become. The situation has changed, Captain. Humanity is no longer fighting this war with conventional methods." "What do you mean?" "We have been enhanced, modified, made into something capable of fighting the aliens on equal terms." She gestured to herself. "Cybernetic integration, genetic modification, psionic development. We are no longer entirely human, but we are still fighting for humanity. Morrison stared at her. The implications of what she was saying were staggering. How many of you are there? Classified information, but enough. The alien ground forces are being systematically eliminated across the globe. Their fleet in orbit is also under attack by our space-capable units. As if to emphasize her point, they heard an explosion in the distance followed by the sound of collapsing buildings. A pillar of fire rose into the sky from somewhere near the lakeshore. Was that one of yours? Morrison asked. Probably. We have several units with explosive capabilities that exceed conventional weapons. Santos tilted her head slightly as if listening to something only she could hear. I am receiving updated tactical information through the neural network. 17 more alien positions have been eliminated in the last 10 minutes. Morrison felt a chill run down his spine. Neural network? All enhanced personnel are connected through psionic links. We share information instantaneously across any distance. The aliens cannot surprise us or coordinate against us because we know their positions and movements in real time. Before Morrison could ask more questions, another figure appeared beside Santos. This one was clearly male, but like her, he had been changed in fundamental ways. His arms were longer than normal, ending in hands that looked more like mechanical tools than human appendages. His face showed surgical scars where cybernetic implants had been installed around his eyes and temples. Santos, we have new priority targets, he said. Large alien force moving toward the downtown area. Estimated strength battalion level. Santos nodded. Understood. Captain Morrison, you and your crew should stay here until the area is secured. This battle is beyond your capabilities now. Wait. Morrison called as she turned to leave. What happens after you defeat the aliens? What happens to you enhanced soldiers? Santos paused. For a moment her expression showed something that might have been sadness or regret. We have not thought that far ahead, Captain. Right now we are focused on survival. The question of what we become after the war is one we will face if we live long enough to see peace. She and her companion disappeared into the ruins, moving with inhuman speed and coordination. Morrison and his crew were left alone with the sounds of distant battle and the terrible knowledge that humanity had changed itself into something monstrous in order to survive. In the depths of space, Admiral Kethvar was receiving reports that defied belief. His ground forces were being slaughtered by enemy units that seemed to possess impossible abilities, energy weapons that could penetrate Zephyrian shields, speed that allowed them to dodge energy beams, strength that could tear through crystal armor. Most disturbing of all, they seemed to know exactly where every Zephyrian soldier was at all times. Sir, we have lost contact with 70% of our ground forces, reported Officer Yenthara. The remaining units are requesting immediate evacuation. Kethvar studied the tactical display with growing horror. Red markers indicating destroyed units covered the planet's surface like a disease. Whatever the humans had done to themselves, it had turned them into something that his military had never encountered before. Order all remaining ground forces to fall back to the landing zones, he commanded. Prepare for full orbital bombardment of major population centers. Sir, that will destroy the planet's infrastructure. There will be nothing left to conquer. The transformation of Earth's battlefields was complete when the enhanced humans stopped defending and began hunting. Captain Nicole Adams had been a marine biologist before the war, studying deep-sea creatures in the Pacific Ocean. Now, after undergoing the aquatic adaptation protocol, she led underwater assault teams against Zephyrian bases hidden beneath the waves. Her lungs had been modified to extract oxygen directly from seawater, allowing her to breathe underwater indefinitely. Her eyes had been enhanced with tissues from deep-sea fish, giving her perfect vision in the crushing darkness of the ocean depths. Her skin had developed a protective layer that could withstand the extreme pressure found miles below the surface. Most importantly, her mind was connected to the psionic network that linked all enhanced humans across the globe. She could sense the locations of her teammates, coordinate complex attacks without speaking, and share tactical information instantly across vast distances. The Zephyrian underwater facility was built into a trench 7 miles below the surface. The aliens had thought the extreme depth would protect them from human attacks. They had been wrong. Adams and her team of 12 enhanced divers moved through the water like a school of predatory sharks. Their modified bodies cut through the ocean with impossible grace, covering the distance to the alien base in minutes rather than hours. Target in sight, Adams communicated through the psionic link, her thoughts reaching her team instantly. Defensive systems appear minimal. They did not expect underwater assault. The alien base was a series of crystalline domes connected by transparent tunnels. Through the walls, Adams could see Zephyrian soldiers moving back and forth, unaware that death was approaching from the darkness around them. Team Alpha, take the northern dome, Adams directed. Team Beta, hit the power generation facility. I will handle the command center. Her teammates spread out through the water, each moving toward their assigned targets. The aliens inside the base continued their normal activities, confident that the crushing depth of the ocean protected them from any human attack. They were about to learn how wrong they were. Adams reached the command dome first. Her enhanced hands, which had developed webbing and retractable claws designed for underwater combat, began cutting through the crystalline wall. The material was incredibly strong, but her claws had been enhanced with diamond-hard tips that could slice through almost anything. Water began rushing into the dome as she created an opening. Emergency alarms started blaring throughout the facility as the Zephyrian personnel realized they were under attack, but it was already too late. Adams flowed through the opening like liquid death, her modified body allowing her to move through the flooded sections of the base as easily as if she were swimming in a pool. The alien soldiers tried to raise their weapons, but water and enhanced human reflexes made their energy beams useless. Her claws found their targets with surgical precision. Blue alien blood mixed with the seawater as the command center became a slaughterhouse. Within minutes, the entire facility was under human control. Underwater base neutralized, Adams reported through the psionic network. Intelligence gathered on Zephyrian fleet positions, transmitting data to orbital strike teams. Meanwhile, in the vacuum of space above Earth, Commander Steve Williams was experiencing his own transformation of the battlefield. He had volunteered for the most extreme modification of all: complete consciousness transfer into a mechanical construct designed for void warfare. His human mind now controlled a combat platform that looked like no ship ever built by either humans or aliens. It was part spacecraft, part weapon, part living creature. The hull was made from materials that could repair themselves when damaged. The weapon systems were powered by energy sources that human science had only recently discovered. Most importantly, it was controlled by a human consciousness that retained all the creativity and adaptability that made humanity dangerous. Williams had been dead for 3 days. His human body had been destroyed during the consciousness transfer process, but his mind lived on in a mechanical form that was more powerful than any conventional spacecraft. This is Ghost Leader to all units, he transmitted to the other consciousness transfer pilots. Enemy fleet maintaining defensive positions around the planet. Recommend coordinated strike on flagship. 5 other enhanced pilots responded through the communication network. Like Williams, they had sacrificed their human bodies to become living weapons capable of space combat. Their mechanical forms moved through the void with grace that no conventional spacecraft could match. The Zephyrian fleet had been designed to fight against primitive human technology. Energy shields that could stop nuclear weapons, armor that could withstand impacts from conventional missiles, weapons that could destroy entire cities with single shots. But they had never faced enemy units that could think like humans while possessing capabilities that exceeded their own technology. Williams and his team approached the alien flagship from 6 different directions, their enhanced forms nearly invisible against the backdrop of space. The Zephyrian sensors, designed to detect conventional spacecraft, failed to register the approaching threat until it was too late. Initiating attack pattern 7, Williams commanded. Focus fire on primary shield generators. The enhanced pilots struck simultaneously. Their weapons, powered by technologies that combined human innovation with captured alien science, punched through the flagship's defenses like knives through paper. Energy beams that had been designed to destroy planets were turned against the ship that had created them, Admiral Kethvar felt his flagship shudder under the unexpected assault. Emergency lights flashed throughout the bridge as damage reports flooded in from all sections of the ship. "What is attacking us?" he demanded. "I see no enemy vessels on sensors." "Unknown, sir," replied Officer Yenthara, her voice tight with fear. "We are detecting energy signatures that do not match any known human technology, but the attack patterns suggest intelligent coordination." Another series of impacts rocked the flagship. This time, the main power grid flickered and went dark for several seconds before emergency power kicked in. "Sir, we are losing primary shield generators," reported the tactical officer. "Whatever is attacking us has weapons that exceed our defensive capabilities." Kethvar stared at the tactical display in disbelief. His flagship was the most powerful vessel in the Zephyrian fleet, capable of destroying entire planets. Now it was being torn apart by enemies he could not even see. "All ships, converge on the flagship," he ordered. "Provide defensive fire." But as the other Zephyrian vessels moved to protect their command ship, they too came under attack. Williams and his team had been joined by other enhanced humans, including those who had undergone different types of modifications. Dr. Tim Foster had become something that was no longer entirely physical. The psionic enhancement program had awakened, mental abilities that allowed him to manipulate matter at the molecular level. His consciousness could reach across vast distances of space, touching the alien ships and turning their own systems against them. From his position on Earth's surface, Foster reached out with his enhanced mind and found the Zephyrian fleet's computer networks. The aliens had never encountered psionic abilities before, so their systems had no defenses against mental intrusion. Foster's consciousness flowed through the alien data networks like a virus made of pure thought. He began turning the fleet's own weapons against each other, causing ships to fire on their allies. Navigation systems began reporting false coordinates. Life support systems started shutting down randomly. "What is happening to our fleet?" Kethvar screamed as he watched his ships turn their weapons on each other. "Unknown interference in all computer systems," Yenthara reported. "It appears to be some form of consciousness invading our networks, but that should be impossible." "Should be impossible" had become a phrase that the Zephyrians were learning to hate. Everything about this war had become impossible. Humans who could survive in the vacuum of space. Soldiers who could phase through solid matter. Weapons that exceeded alien technology. Mental abilities that could control matter itself. The aliens had come to conquer a primitive species. Instead, they had awakened something that defied every law of warfare they understood. Williams felt the satisfaction of the hunt as another Zephyrian cruiser exploded under his weapons fire. Through the psionic network, he could sense the success of enhanced human forces across the globe. Ground troops were being systematically eliminated. Underwater bases were falling one by one. The alien fleet in orbit was being torn apart by enemies they could barely comprehend. "This is Ghost Leader to all enhanced units," he transmitted. "Enemy fleet is breaking formation. They are attempting to retreat." The response came back through the network from hundreds of enhanced humans. "Do not let them escape." What followed was not a battle. It was a hunt. The enhanced humans pursued the fleeing Zephyrian ships with relentless efficiency. Every alien vessel that tried to run was caught and destroyed. Every escape pod was tracked down and eliminated. The species that had conquered 17 star systems was learning what it felt like to be prey. On the surface of Earth, Captain Jake Morrison watched the lights in the sky as the space battle raged overhead. 6 months after the Zephyrian invasion began, Admiral Kethvar transmitted his empire's formal surrender from the bridge of his crippled flagship. The mighty fleet that had conquered 17 star systems lay in ruins around Earth, their survivors, grateful to be allowed to retreat with their lives. The transmission was brief and filled with defeat. To the enhanced forces of Earth, the Zephyrian Empire formally surrenders all claims to your world. We request permission to withdraw our remaining personnel and vessels. We will not return. Captain Jake Morrison listened to the surrender announcement from the rebuilt command center in Chicago. Around him, Normal human officers celebrated the victory that had seemed impossible just months before, but Morrison felt no joy, only a deep uncertainty about what came next. The war was over, but the price of victory was only beginning to be understood. Dr. Elena Rodriguez stood in the same control room where she had authorized Project Nightfall, watching reports from around the globe. The enhanced humans had successfully defended Earth, but the process had fundamentally changed what it meant to be human. Status report on enhanced personnel, she requested from her assistant, Dr. Gary Webb. Webb looked at his datapad with troubled eyes. We have approximately 8,000 enhanced individuals worldwide. Survival rate from the modification process was 73%. But Elena, the psychological evaluations are concerning. Rodriguez had been afraid of this. The genetic, cybernetic, and psionic modifications had created incredibly powerful warriors, but they had also created beings who no longer fit into human society. Lieutenant Commander Ryan Clark struggled with his new reality every day. His enhanced senses meant that normal human interaction was nearly impossible. He could hear heartbeats from blocks away, smell the chemical changes that fear produced in people's bodies, and see heat signatures through solid walls. The genetic modifications that had made him an unstoppable warrior now made him a permanent outsider from the species he had saved. He stood on the roof of a rebuilt apartment building, looking down at the city below. Normal humans moved through, the streets going about their daily lives as if the war had never happened. But Clark could sense their emotions, their fears, their discomfort whenever they encountered one of the enhanced soldiers. "They are afraid of us," said a voice behind him. Clark turned to see Sergeant Maria Santos approaching. Her cybernetic enhancements were more visible than his genetic modifications. Metal plates showed through gaps in her synthetic skin, and her eyes glowed with electronic light. "Can you blame them?" Clark replied. "Look at what we have become." Santos joined him at the edge of the roof. "We saved their world. We gave them their freedom. And now they do not know what to do with us." It was true. The enhanced humans who had fought the aliens were heroes, but they were also reminders of the terrible things humanity had done to itself in order to survive. Some people called them saviors, others whispered that they were monsters. General Paul Adams faced the question that haunted Earth's leadership. What do you do with an army of monsters when the war is over? He sat in a secure conference room with other military and political leaders, reviewing classified reports about the enhanced soldiers. The documents made for uncomfortable reading. "The genetic modifications are irreversible," reported Dr. Rodriguez. "The enhanced individuals will never be able to return to normal human biology. Their nutritional requirements are different. Their sleep patterns are altered, and their psychological profiles show significant changes in behavior and thought patterns." "What about the cybernetic soldiers?" asked President Linda Davis. "Similar issues. The integration between human consciousness and machine systems is complete. Removing the cybernetic components would result in death or permanent disability." President Davis rubbed her temples. The war had been won, but the victory felt hollow. "What are they asking for?" "Most want to continue serving in some capacity," General Adams replied. "They understand that they can no longer integrate into civilian society, but they also understand that Earth may face other threats in the future. And the others? Some are requesting isolation. They want to be left alone to figure out what they have become. A few are asking for medical assistance to end their existence, humanely." The room fell silent. The enhanced soldiers had saved humanity, but many of them now viewed their continued existence as a burden rather than a gift. Dr. Tim Foster had become something that existed more as energy than matter. The psionic enhancement program had pushed his consciousness beyond the boundaries of physical form. He could manipulate matter at the molecular level, communicate telepathically across any distance, and perceive reality in ways that normal humans could not understand. But he could no longer touch another person without causing them pain. His enhanced mind was too powerful, too alien for normal human brains to handle. He lived in isolation, connected to the other enhanced humans through the psionic network but forever separated from the rest of humanity. We have become the guardians of a species that can no longer accept us. He communicated to the other enhanced individuals through the mental link. The response came from hundreds of minds across the globe, all sharing the same sense of loss and displacement. Commander Steve Williams existed as consciousness trapped in a mechanical body designed for warfare, rather than peaceful interaction. His human mind controlled systems that could destroy planets, but he could never again feel the warmth of sunlight on skin or taste food or hold another person's hand. He floated in Earth's orbit, watching the planet turn slowly below him. The Mun cities were being rebuilt. Normal life was resuming. But there was no place in that normal life for beings like him. "Status report, Commander," came a transmission from Earth's surface. "All clear," Williams replied. "No alien activity detected. In the solar system, the Zephyrians appear to have honored their retreat." "Understood. Return to base for scheduled maintenance." Williams did not move. The mechanical body he inhabited required regular maintenance to function properly, but he no longer felt the urgency to preserve his existence. What was the point of continuing when he could never again be part of the world he had saved? Captain Morrison was one of the few unmodified humans to survive the war in a command position. He found himself serving as a liaison between normal humanity and the enhanced soldiers, trying to bridge a gap that seemed to grow wider every day. He visited Clark at the enhanced personnel facility outside Chicago. The building looked more like a research laboratory than military housing, which was probably appropriate since the enhanced soldiers were as much scientific experiments as they were people. "How are you adjusting?" Morrison asked. Clark smiled, but the expression looked wrong on his modified features. "I can hear your heart rate increase every time you look at me, Jake. I can smell the fear hormones your body produces when you are in my presence. How do you think I am adjusting?" Morrison tried to control his involuntary reactions, but Clark was right. Being around the enhanced soldiers triggered deep instinctive responses that normal humans could not suppress. "The government is working on integration programs," Morrison said. "Ways to help enhanced personnel find roles in civilian society." "What roles?" Clark asked. "I am a living weapon, Jake. I was designed to hunt and kill aliens. The war is over, but I am still what I was made to be." Similar conversations were happening around the world. The enhanced humans understood their situation clearly. They had saved humanity, but they could never again be part of it. Dr. Rodriguez received the final report 6 months after the surrender. The numbers told the story clearly. Enhanced personnel showed increasing rates of depression, isolation, and requests for voluntary termination. Integration into civilian society had failed completely. Even their families struggled to accept what their loved ones had become. "What do we do?" she asked General Adams. "We honor our debt to them," he replied. "They gave up their humanity to save our species. The least we can do is help them find peace with what they have become." Some enhanced soldiers chose to remain active, forming special units that would defend Earth against future threats. Others requested isolation in remote facilities where they could exist without frightening normal humans. A few chose to explore space using their enhanced abilities to push the boundaries of human knowledge and territory. But all of them carried the same burden. They had saved humanity by becoming something that humanity could no longer accept. The victory was complete, the aliens were gone, and Earth was free. But in the quiet moments between celebration and mourning, the enhanced warriors who had saved their world wondered if the price of survival had been worth paying. In the end, humanity had learned the most dangerous lesson of all, that the line between hero and monster was often just a matter of perspective, and that sometimes the greatest threats to humanity came not from the stars above, but from the depths of human potential itself. The monsters had won the war, but they had lost their place in the world they saved.